Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're stepping into this really fascinating area where science and faith kind of intertwine.
Yeah,
We're going to be diving deep into young Earth creationism.
right.
And what's really cool about this one is the collection of sources that you guys gave us is pretty diverse.
It is.
We've got excerpts from Genesis, we've got scientific lectures, we've even got some ancient Hebrew inscriptions, so
Yeah,
it's going to be a really interesting journey.
it is. This deep dive is really interesting because of all the different perspectives.
Right.
We're going to be exploring not just the biblical basis,
Right.
but also we're going to be looking at scientific arguments
Okay.
and historical evidence.
Yeah. It's like not just about what people believe,
Right.
but how they're arriving at those beliefs.
Exactly.
So let's start with the foundation. What exactly young Earth creationism?
Well, it boils down to the belief that the Earth is not billions of years old,
Okay.
as mainstream science would suggest,
Mm.
but rather only a few thousand years old.
Mm.
And this is based on a literal reading of the Genesis creation account.
And speaking of Genesis, we've got excerpts from chapters 1 and 2 right here.
Right.
And it's so fascinating how this creation story unfolds.
It is.
First, there's the creation of the heavens and the earth.
Hmm.
Then light, the separation of waters, land, and vegetation.
Yeah.
Then comes the sun and moon and stars, followed by sea creatures and birds,
Okay.
land animals, and then finally humans.
That order is really crucial for young Earth creationists
Okay.
because it challenges the conventional scientific timeline,
Right.
where the formation of stars and galaxies precede the Earth.
It's almost like the earth takes center stage
Yeah.
in the Genesis account.
That's right.
There's also this really cool detail in Genesis 2.5 that stood out to me, where it says, no shrub or plant had yet grown because God had not caused it to rain,
Right.
and there was no man to cultivate the ground.
That's right.
It's almost like this world was primed and ready
It was.
for humanity. It was perfectly designed for our arrival.
Designed, that's a key concept to understanding young Earth creationism.
Okay.
And it's not just a philosophical idea. They argue that there's scientific evidence to support it.
And that's where these lectures by Dr. Andrew Snelling come in,
They do.
who is a geologist.
Yes,
And he's got a whole range of arguments in favor of a young Earth.
he does.
So one of his most compelling arguments revolves around short period comets.
Yeah.
You know, those icy bodies that disintegrate quickly
Right, as they orbit the sun.
as they orbit the sun, right?
Yeah.
So if the solar system really were billions of years old, like most scientists believe, these comets should be long gone.
Yeah.
But the fact that they continue to exist
Mm-hmm.
suggests a much younger solar system.
Right, perhaps less than 10,000 years old.
That's a fascinating point.
It is.
It really makes you question like the assumptions we often make about these vast cosmic timescales.
Exactly.
So what other scientific evidence does Snelling present?
Well, he also points to the Earth's magnetic field,
Oh.
which has been steadily decreasing in strength over time.
Okay.
And by extrapolating backward, we can kind of calculate that the magnetic field would have been incredibly strong
Okay.
just a few thousand years ago.
Okay.
In fact, beyond a certain point, the intensity would have made life on Earth impossible.
So the decreasing magnetic field is pointing towards a recent origin for Earth.
Right.
And it's not just the slow decline that's interesting.
Right.
He mentions these rapid magnetic field reversals
He does.
recorded in lava flows in Oregon
Right.
and lake sediments in Italy.
That's right.
And if these reversals, which mainstream science suggests take hundreds of thousands of years,
Right.
if they happened much faster,
Yeah.
wouldn't that completely turn our understanding of geological timescales upside down?
Exactly. It challenges the assumption that geological processes always occur gradually
Right.
over millions of years.
Okay, so we've gone from comets whizzing through space to the Earth's magnetic field flipping back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But Snelling doesn't stop there, right?
No.
He also brings up the erosion of continents.
Right. He points out that at current erosion rates,
Oh.
the continents should have been worn down
Okay.
to sea level.
Okay. Long ago,
That's
the fact that we still have towering mountain ranges
Right.
suggests that the Earth might be much younger than conventionally thought.
That's right.
Again, he attributes these dramatic landscapes that we see
Yeah.
to catastrophic events like the flood.
Right.
It's such a compelling argument.
It is.
You start to think, wait, why do we still have mountains?
Yeah.
If erosion has been happening for millions of years,
Exactly.
it's like looking at a mountain range
Yeah.
and seeing evidence of a much more dynamic and recent past.
Yes.
And that erosion argument applies to the seafloor as well.
Yes, it does.
He points out that the rate of sediment accumulation on the ocean floor is much faster than what you would expect if the Earth were billions of years old.
That's right.
So, again, this supports a much younger time frame for the Earth's history.
It does.
Okay, so we've got comets to continents to the ocean floor.
Right.
The evidence for a young Earth seems to be piling up.
It does.
But there's another piece of evidence that Snelling brings up.
Okay.
And that is the saltiness of the sea.
That's a classic argument
Okay.
for young Earth.
Okay.
His calculations show that, assuming that the oceans started as fresh water,
Okay.
reaching current salt levels would take far less time than the billions of years proposed by mainstream science.
It's amazing how something as simple as the saltiness of the ocean can be used to make such a profound argument.
It is.
But let's shift gears now.
Okay.
And zoom in from the grand scale of continents and oceans to the microscopic world of biochemistry.
Okay.
And this is where Dr. Joe Deweese's lectures become really relevant.
They do.
Because he argues that the incredible complexity of biochemical systems points toward design rather than random evolution.
That's right.
And his lectures are mind-blowing. He uses the example of the ribosome, this intricate complex of RNA and protein responsible for building other proteins. The sheer complexity and interdependence of the biomolecules involved make it hard to imagine how such a system could have risen through chance alone.
It does.
And he dives even deeper into this concept of causal circularity, where, for example, proteins are needed to make proteins, and RNA needs DNA, and vice versa.
Exactly.
This intricate web of interdependencies poses a significant challenge to evolutionary explanations.
It does.
It's like, where do you even begin if everything needs everything else to function?
Exactly. It's a chicken and the egg problem.
Right. On a molecular level.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder if there isn't some guiding intelligence behind this intricate machinery of life.
It does.
And he draws this fascinating analogy between the structure of the genome and modern information systems. You know, he talks about layers, modularity, just like you see in sophisticated software.
He does. He even brings up the concept of the 3D genome.
Okay.
Where specific sections of chromosomes, even if they're far apart linearly, reliably associate with each other in three-dimensional space to facilitate gene expression.
Wow.
It's like an engineer designed the genome to fold and interact in a specific way to optimize its function.
It's like looking at a complex piece of software and realizing there must be a brilliant programmer behind it.
Right.
It's hard to imagine such intricate organization arising through random mutation and natural selection alone.
Right.
But switching gears a bit, let's talk about a more challenging aspect of the creation narrative.
Okay.
And that is death.
Yeah.
And this is where Dr. Todd Wood, a biologist,
yes,
really delves into the role of death.
He does.
In a world created by a loving God,
right,
from a young earth creationist perspective,
yeah,
death wasn't part of God's original plan. It entered the world as a consequence of human sin, the fall. So it wasn't always this way.
No.
It's kind of a heavy concept to grasp.
It is.
You know, this idea that death, as we know it,
right,
is a result of our actions, our choices.
Yes.
But Wood also argues that even death, as terrible as it is,
yes,
exhibits signs of design.
It does.
He points to its role in maintaining ecological balance,
right,
and the intricate processes involved in decomposition and nutrient recycling. It's like death, even though a consequence of the fall
right,
has been woven into the fabric of the natural world in a way that points to purposeful design.
That's right.
I'm particularly struck by Wood's story of photographing a rattlesnake.
Okay.
And he uses this encounter
yeah,
to illustrate the concept of designed evil,
okay,
asking why a good God would design such a creature with venomous fangs,
right,
capable of inflicting pain and death.
Right.
It's a question that has haunted theologians and philosophers for centuries. Why would a loving God allow suffering and death to exist in the world he created?
That's right.
It's a question that leads us to explore this complex relationship.
Yeah.
Between good and evil,
right,
the nature of free will, and the ultimate purpose of creation.
Exactly.
It's such a profound question.
It is.
And it challenges us to think deeply about the nature of God and the world he created.
It does.
But if death is a result of the fall, then how do young earth creationists reconcile that with the fossil record?
Right.
which seems to show evidence of death and extinction long before humans appeared.
That's a good question, and it's a point of debate even within the young Earth creationist community.
Oh, okay.
There isn't a single universally accepted answer.
Okay.
Some suggest that the fossil record represents creatures that died during the global flood, while others offer alternative interpretations.
Okay.
It's an area where ongoing research and discussion are essential.
So the relationship between death and creation is complex.
It is.
With multiple perspectives,
Right.
ongoing debate.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even within a seemingly unified worldview,
Right.
like young Earth creationism, there's still room for nuanced interpretations and ongoing exploration.
That's right.
Now let's embark on a journey back in time with Dr. Doug Petrovich, who is an archaeologist specializing in ancient Hebrew inscriptions.
Yes.
And his research is truly groundbreaking.
It is.
He presents evidence that alphabetic writing originated much earlier than conventionally thought, potentially pushing it back close to the time of Moses?
Wow.
Are you suggesting that Moses himself could have authored some of these inscriptions?
It's a possibility.
That's incredible.
It is, and what's even more fascinating is that one inscription Petrovich analyzes seems to describe events from Exodus.
Wow.
Directly connecting these ancient writings to biblical narratives.
This could rewrite our understanding of the development of writing and even history itself.
Yes.
We might have to rethink the timeline
of
ancient civilizations.
It's like discovering a missing chapter in the story of human history.
Right.
It's a bold claim.
Right.
But Petrovich's research challenges long-held assumptions in the field.
Okay.
And he delves into some fascinating specifics.
Okay.
For example, he describes an inscription known as the crooked person inscription.
The crooked person inscription.
Yes.
Tell me more.
The text of this inscription is written around a hieroglyph.
Okay.
Petrovich suggests that this unique structure visually conveys the idea of God wrapping himself around evil.
Wow.
To eventually choke it out.
It's like a visual sermon etched in stone.
Exactly.
It's amazing how these ancient inscriptions can offer such profound insights into the beliefs and worldviews of people who lived thousands of years ago.
Yes.
But if Petrovich's dating is accurate,
Right.
it raises some serious questions
It does.
about the conventional timeline of ancient civilizations.
It suggests that sophisticated writing systems might have existed much earlier than previously thought, challenging the established narrative of how and when civilizations developed.
So it opens up this whole new avenue of exploration
It does.
in the field of ancient history.
It does.
It's mind-boggling to think that a handful of ancient inscriptions could have such a profound impact on our understanding of the past.
It does.
It really makes you wonder what other historical assumptions might need revisiting in light of new evidence.
That's right.
But, you know, as we're diving into this world of ancient inscriptions and biblical narratives, I can't help but think about the bigger picture, the philosophical and theological implications of a young Earth timeline.
That's where Dr. Kurt Wise, paleontologist, brings us back to this concept of a unified hierarchy.
A unified hierarchy, what does that mean?
Well, he starts with the Trinity. God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. He explains how these three distinct persons are yet one and equal, a concept that's central to Christian theology.
So there's a hierarchy within the Trinity itself.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
It is.
And he argues that this same concept of a unified hierarchy can be seen reflected in other aspects of creation.
That's right.
He sees it in the relationship between husband and wife, within the structure of the church, and even in the natural world and the complex interrelationships between different species.
Exactly.
So it's like this pattern of unity within diversity is woven into the very fabric of reality.
It is.
From the Godhead to human relationships to the natural world. It's truly a mind-expanding concept.
It is.
But how does this connect to young Earth creationism specifically?
Well, for Wise, understanding this unified hierarchy helps us to better understand the nature of God and his relationship to his creation. If God is a unified hierarchy, then perhaps his creation reflects that same unity and diversity.
So studying the natural world, understanding its interconnectedness, the intricate relationships between different life forms can actually provide us with insights into the nature of God.
Exactly. It challenges us to see the world around us in a new light. to appreciate the beauty and complexity of creation as a reflection of the divine.
Wow, that's incredibly profound.
It is.
So this deep dive into young Earth creationism isn't just about the age of the Earth.
It's not.
It's about understanding the nature of God, his relationship to creation, and our place in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
It's a journey that takes us from the vastness of the cosmos to the intricacies of our own selves, all while grappling with fundamental questions about life, death, and our place in the universe. There's so much to ponder.
A lot to think about.
It's a journey that invites us to engage our minds, our hearts, and our imagination.
Absolutely.
And we're only just beginning to explore the depths of this fascinating topic.
That's right. Yeah, it's a journey that really highlights the power of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been exploring scientific evidence, but even that is viewed through the lens of differing interpretations.
That's what's been so fascinating to me. We've been talking about evidence for a young Earth.
Right.
But it seems like a lot hinges on different starting points. Like with the saltiness of the sea, the young Earth creationist model factors in the biblical flood, which drastically changes the calculations.
It does, precisely.
So both young Earth creationism and mainstream science often use the same observations, but interpret them through very different frameworks.
Exactly.
It's like we're looking at the same puzzle, but with completely different pictures on the box lid to guide us.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And those different pictures can lead to vastly different assembled puzzles.
It makes you realize that science isn't always as objective as we might think. There's a human element, a worldview element that shapes how we interpret data.
Absolutely. And that's where the philosophical layer comes in.
Okay.
Young Earth creationism isn't just about scientific arguments. It's ultimately grounded in a belief system that prioritizes the Bible as the ultimate authority.
So it's not just about the age of the Earth. It's about a whole worldview.
It is.
A way of seeing God as the creator and sustainer of all things.
Exactly. And that worldview influences how young Earth creationists approach scientific questions.
Okay.
They're not just looking for natural explanations.
Yeah.
They're looking for evidence of God's handiwork.
It's fascinating how these ideas intertwine.
They do.
Science, faith, philosophy, history.
Yes.
It's like they're all woven together in this intricate tapestry.
And that tapestry is still being woven as new discoveries and interpretations emerge.
Speaking of new discoveries, I keep thinking about Dr. Petrovich's research on those ancient Hebrew inscriptions. If his dating is accurate, and those inscriptions really date back to the time of Moses, it would push back the origins of alphabetic writing by centuries.
It would be a monumental shift in our understanding of ancient civilizations. We might literally have to rewrite history textbooks.
Imagine that. A handful of ancient inscriptions changing our entire understanding of the past. It makes you wonder.
It does.
What other historical assumptions might need revisiting in light of new evidence?
Absolutely. That's the beauty of both science and history. They're constantly evolving. New discoveries challenge old assumptions. And force us to reevaluate what we thought we knew.
Okay, let's shift gears for a moment. We've been talking a lot about the past, about ancient inscriptions and the origins of the Earth. But let's bring it back to the present. If we accept a young Earth timeline, what does that mean for us today?
Well, for young Earth creationists, it reinforces the truth and authority of the Bible. It deepens their faith. And provides a solid foundation for their understanding of the world and their place in it.
So it's not just an intellectual exercise. It's deeply personal.
It is.
And shapes their entire worldview.
Exactly.
But what about people who don't subscribe to a young Earth creationist worldview? How can this deep dive be relevant to them?
Well, even if someone doesn't share the same beliefs, I think there's immense value in engaging with different perspectives. It broadens our understanding of the origins debate. And challenges us to think critically about our own assumptions.
So even if you don't agree with the conclusions, it's still a valuable exercise in critical thinking and exploring different ways of interpreting evidence.
Exactly. And who knows, it might even spark new questions. And avenues of inquiry that you wouldn't have considered otherwise.
It's like planting a seed. Even if it doesn't grow into a towering tree.
It might still sprout a few interesting leaves.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And sometimes the most unexpected plants yield the most beautiful flowers.
As we've been discussing all these different arguments and perspectives, one theme keeps coming back to me.
Okay.
This idea of design.
Right.
Dr. DeWeese talked about it in the context of biochemistry.
He did.
Dr. Wood brought it up with the concept of designed evil.
He did.
And even Dr. Petrovich's analysis of ancient inscriptions hints at a sense of artistry and intentionality.
It does.
Like everywhere we look in nature,
right,
we see signs of a creator's hand at work.
That's a central tenet of young Earth creationism. Okay. This belief that the natural world points towards a designer. They see the intricate complexity of life, the fine-tuning of the universe, the beauty and purposefulness of nature.
Okay.
And they see evidence of a creator.
But is that a scientific claim or a philosophical one? I mean, can we actually prove design scientifically? That's where the lines get blurry.
Oh, okay.
Mainstream science tends to focus on natural explanations for phenomena.
Right.
While young Earth creationism sees evidence of supernatural intervention.
So the question of design becomes a matter of interpretation.
It goes.
Rather than purely objective observation.
Right.
It all depends on your starting assumptions and worldview.
Precisely. You can look at the same evidence.
Right.
And come to very different conclusions depending on the framework you're using to interpret it.
Okay, so if we can't definitively prove design scientifically, how do young Earth creationists make their case?
Well, they often point to what they see as the irreducible complexity of biological systems.
Okay.
They argue that certain biological structures are so intricate and interdependent that they couldn't have possibly evolved gradually through small random changes.
They also point to the fine-tuning of the universe, right?
Exactly. All those physical constants and laws that seem perfectly calibrated to allow for life to exist.
Right. They argue that the probability of all those factors coming together by pure chance is so astronomically small.
It is.
That it points towards a purposeful design.
Right.
And they also appeal to the beauty and apparent purposefulness of nature.
They do.
It's like that feeling you get when you look up at a starry night sky.
Yeah.
That sense of awe and wonder that whispers, there must be something more.
Right.
Something beyond the purely material. Something pointing towards a greater reality.
It's that sense of transcendence, of something beyond ourselves.
Right.
That many find so compelling.
Right.
And for young Earth creationists, that greater reality is a creator God.
A God who not only created the universe, but is intimately involved in its ongoing operation.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Genesis, the starting point for this whole discussion.
Right.
It's amazing how this ancient text continues to spark debate and inspire wonder.
Yeah.
Even in our modern scientific age.
Right. It speaks to these enduring questions about our origins.
It does,
Our purpose, the nature of reality itself, questions that science alone can't fully answer.
That's right.
And even if we don't have all the answers,
the
journey of exploration is what makes it so fascinating.
Absolutely.
It's a journey that invites us to engage our minds.
It does.
Our hearts and our imaginations.
And it's a journey that challenges us to think critically about our assumptions.
Right.
And to be open to different perspectives.
Speaking of journeys, we've been on quite a ride today.
We have.
From the grand scale of the cosmos down to the microscopic world of biochemistry.
Yes.
From the depths of the ocean to the heights of ancient mountains.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
And we've encountered some truly mind-blowing ideas.
A lot to ponder.
But I think what's struck me most is the passion and conviction of the scientists and theologians that we've encountered in these sources.
Yeah.
They're all deeply committed to their respective viewpoints.
Yes, they are.
And are driven by a desire to understand truth.
That's right.
And that commitment, that willingness to grapple with these big questions is what makes this whole discussion so compelling.
It is.
It's not about finding the right answers.
No.
It's about the pursuit of truth.
Yes.
Wherever it may lead.
That's right.
And it's about recognizing that there are multiple ways of understanding the world around us.
There are.
Ways that are shaped by our beliefs, our experiences, and our cultural contexts.
Absolutely. Which is why it's so important to engage with diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Even those that challenge our own assumptions.
Right, because it's through that engagement that we can grow in our understanding, refine our own thinking, and perhaps even discover new insights we wouldn't have considered on our own.
Exactly. It's about embracing the richness and complexity of the intellectual landscape and being willing to learn from those who see the world differently than we do.
I want to circle back to Dr. Wise's concept of a unified hierarchy for a moment.
Okay.
It's such a complex idea.
It is.
But with such fascinating implications.
Yeah.
For how we understand the world and our place in it.
It really is a profound concept.
Yeah.
This idea that the Trinity, the relationship between God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit,
right,
reflects a pattern of unity within diversity.
Right.
That can be seen throughout creation.
He sees it in human relationships, the structure of the church, even in the natural world.
He does.
It's like this pattern is woven into the very fabric of reality.
It is. And it challenges us to look for those connections, those relationships, in ways we might not have considered before.
Instead of seeing the world as a collection of separate, isolated entities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We start to see it as an interconnected web, a complex system where everything is related, and where there's this beautiful order and harmony underlying the apparent chaos.
And maybe, just maybe, understanding that interconnectedness can help us to better understand the nature of God.
It could.
Because if God is a unified hierarchy, then perhaps his creation reflects that same unity and diversity. It's like looking at a tapestry and seeing not just the individual threads, but the intricate pattern they create when woven together, and realizing that the beauty of the tapestry lies in both its unity and its diversity.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much ground in this part of our deep dive.
We have.
And you've given us so much to ponder.
A lot to think about.
We'll be back after a short interlude to continue our exploration of young Earth creationism and its implications.
Yeah, that tapestry analogy really resonates with me. It feels like we've been weaving together threads of science and faith and history and philosophy, even art, just trying to make sense of this incredible tapestry of reality. And while we may not have all the answers, the journey itself has been so illuminating. We've grappled with these different perspectives and explored this complex evidence and encountered thought-provoking arguments.
Yeah, it's like we're piecing together this infinite jigsaw puzzle. And with each new piece, our understanding of the bigger picture kind of expands, even if we never truly complete the puzzle.
Exactly. The pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong adventure. There's always more to discover, more to learn, and that's what makes it so exciting.
As we wrap up our deep dive into young Earth creationism, I keep coming back to this question of faith. We've explored the scientific arguments, the historical evidence, the philosophical implications, but ultimately, it seems like it all kind of hinges on faith, doesn't it?
Absolutely. For young Earth creationists, faith is the foundation upon which everything else rests. It's the lens through which they view the evidence, the source of their conviction that the Bible is a reliable guide to understanding the origins of the universe and life itself.
So it's not just about accepting certain facts, right? It's about a deep trust in the authority and truth of Scripture. But what about those who don't share that same faith commitment? Can they still find value in exploring these ideas?
I believe they can. It's an opportunity to understand a different worldview, to see how others interpret the same evidence that we all have access to.
It's like stepping into someone else's shoes for a while and seeing the world through their eyes, trying to understand their perspective, even if we don't ultimately agree with it.
Exactly. And even if we don't embrace their conclusions, it can help us to clarify our own beliefs, to articulate them more thoughtfully, and to recognize the role that faith, whether we're conscious of it or not, plays in shaping how we view the world.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive into young Earth creationism, and it's been quite a journey.
It has.
We've tackled these complex questions about the nature of God, the origins of life, even the role of death in a created world.
We've traveled from the vastness of the cosmos to the intricacies of our own selves, wrestling with these fundamental questions about our place in the universe.
And while we may not have all the answers, I hope we've sparked your curiosity, challenged your assumptions, and maybe even inspired you to continue exploring these ideas on your own.
The world is full of wonder and mystery, and there's always more to discover if we're willing to keep searching.
So what stands out to you from all these different perspectives? What new questions has this deep dive sparked for you? The beauty of the deep dive is that it's just the beginning. It's a launch pad for your own intellectual and spiritual journey.
And remember, the world is full of incredible complexity and beauty just waiting to be explored.
So keep digging, keep questioning, keep exploring, and until next time, happy diving.